Welcome to My Books and Storytime by Mybooksandstorytime. Let's explore. Chapter 1: Marley's Ghost. On a bitterly cold Christmas Eve in London, a harsh wind howled through the narrow streets, rattling the windows of small houses and sending shivers down the spines of the weary travelers hurrying home. Among the bustling city, one man remained entirely untouched by the festive spirit: Ebenezer Scrooge. Scrooge was a miser of the highest degree, a man whose very name had become synonymous with stinginess and cruelty. He sat in his dreary counting-house, poring over his ledgers with a frown so deep it seemed permanently etched onto his face. His only employee, Bob Cratchit, a kind-hearted clerk, huddled near a single flickering candle, his fingers numb from the cold. "Merry Christmas, Uncle!" cried a cheerful voice, shattering the silence. It was Fred, Scrooge's nephew, who burst into the room with a bright smile, unfazed by the old man's scowl. "Nonsense!" Scrooge snapped. "Christmas is nothing but a waste of time and money. What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough." Fred, undeterred, spoke of the warmth and joy of Christmas, of kindness and generosity, but Scrooge refused to hear it. When two gentlemen arrived, collecting donations for the poor, Scrooge dismissed them coldly. "Are there no prisons? No workhouses?" he asked. He had no interest in charity, believing the poor should help themselves or perish. As the evening wore on, Bob Cratchit was finally allowed to go home, granted Christmas Day off, albeit begrudgingly. Scrooge locked up the office and trudged through the snow-covered streets, retreating to his lonely, dark house. But something was different that night. As he climbed the stairs, he suddenly froze. The knocker on his front door no longer looked like a simple piece of brass. Instead, it bore the unmistakable face of Jacob Marley, his old business partner, dead for 7 years that very night. Shaking off the vision, Scrooge entered his home and locked the door tightly. He settled into his chair by the dim fire, but an unsettling chill filled the room. And then, the bells began to ring. First softly, then louder and louder until a terrible clanking of chains echoed through the house. Before him stood the ghostly figure of Jacob Marley, bound in heavy chains, the links forged from ledgers, keys, and cash boxes. "Ebenezer," Marley's hollow voice warned, "I wear the chains I forged in life. You have been forging your own link by link." Scrooge, though terrified, scoffed. "But you were always a good man of business, Jacob." "Business?" Marley's voice thundered. "Mankind was my business. Kindness, charity, and love were my business. But I ignored them, as you do now." He warned Scrooge that he had one chance at redemption. That night, he would be visited by 3 spirits. If he did not heed their lessons, he would share Marley's cursed fate, doomed to wander the earth in agony, witnessing the suffering he had ignored in life. As Marley's ghost faded into the night, the rattling chains still echoed in Scrooge's ears. Terrified yet skeptical, he barely dared to breathe as he awaited the first ghost. Chapter 2: The Ghost of Christmas Past. As the clock struck 1, a soft glow filled the room. A figure emerged, a small, delicate spirit, appearing both old and young at once, its form flickering like a candle's flame. "I am the ghost of Christmas past," it said. "Come, and see what once was." The room dissolved into mist, and suddenly Scrooge found himself standing outside a familiar place, his childhood school. The sight was enough to stir a long-buried emotion within him. Inside, a lonely young boy sat at a desk, abandoned during the holidays while others had gone home to their families. Scrooge recognized himself, a small and fragile child, neglected and unwanted. The memory hit him like a wave. Next, they traveled to a warmer memory. A young Scrooge, now an apprentice, danced merrily at a Christmas party hosted by Mr. Fezziwig, his generous old employer. The room was filled with joy, laughter, and the warmth of good company. Scrooge's heart clenched as he remembered the kindness Fezziwig had shown him, so unlike the cold, heartless master he had become. The spirit then led him to an even more painful memory. A young woman, Belle, stood before a slightly older Scrooge, tears in her eyes. "You have changed, Ebenezer," she whispered. "You love money more than you ever loved me." She released him from their engagement, and Scrooge, though hurt, let her go. He had been so consumed by wealth that he had lost the only true love he had ever known. Scrooge could take no more. "Leave me," he begged the ghost. The spirit disappeared, and Scrooge was alone once more. Chapter 3. The Ghost of Christmas Present. The next ghost arrived with a booming laugh, a towering, jolly giant robed in green, wreathed in holly. "Come touch my robe," the ghost of Christmas present bellowed. Scrooge obeyed, and in an instant, they were standing in the modest home of Bob Cratchit. The Cratchit family gathered around a small but lovingly prepared Christmas dinner. Despite their hardships, they were happy, filled with love and gratitude. Bob's youngest son, Tiny Tim, sat by the fire, his little crutch resting beside him. Though frail and sickly, he beamed with joy. "Will he live?" Scrooge asked hesitantly. "If these shadows remain unchanged, the child will not see another Christmas," the ghost warned. The word struck deep. The spirit then took Scrooge to other homes. His nephew Fred's house, where the family laughed over Scrooge's miserly ways, and the homes of the poor, where, despite their struggles, the spirit of Christmas burned bright. Scrooge had never realized the depth of suffering in the world. Before the spirit vanished, he revealed two wretched children hiding beneath his robe. "Ignorance and want," he said gravely. "Beware them both, but especially ignorance, for it spells doom." Chapter 4. The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. The final spirit arrived, a silent, hooded figure cloaked in black. Its presence sent an icy dread through Scrooge's bones. Without a word, it pointed forward, showing a vision of the future. Scrooge watched as businessmen discussed a recent death, one they found neither sad nor significant. He saw a group of thieves laughing as they sold off possessions stolen from the deceased's room. Then he saw a family, relieved by a death that had erased their crushing debts. Finally, the ghost led him to a neglected graveyard. Scrooge's eyes followed the spirit's bony finger to a single, unkempt tombstone. His own name was carved upon it. Falling to his knees, he cried, "No, spirit, I will change. I will honor Christmas in my heart and live it all year long." The spirit gave no answer. Chapter 5. Redemption. Scrooge awoke in his bed, alive and transformed. Overcome with joy, he laughed a real heartfelt laugh. He ran to the window and called out to a passing boy, sending him to buy the largest turkey for the Cratchit family. He doubled Bob Cratchit's salary, donated to charity, and attended Fred's Christmas dinner. From that day on, he became a man of generosity and kindness. Tiny Tim did not die, and Scrooge became a second father to him. He had been given a second chance, and he embraced it wholeheartedly. And so, as Dickens wrote, "God bless us, everyone." Final thoughts on A Christmas Carol. At its heart, A Christmas Carol is not just a ghost story or a festive tale. It's a timeless reflection on the power of redemption, human kindness, and the importance of community. Charles Dickens didn't just write a holiday fable. He crafted a social critique wrapped in an emotionally compelling journey that still resonates with readers today. Through Scrooge's transformation, Dickens forces us to examine our own lives. Are we living with generosity and warmth, or are we allowing greed and cynicism to control us? Scrooge's story reminds us that no matter how set in our ways we might be, change is always possible. His initial state, bitter, isolated, and driven by a love of money, feels almost exaggerated, but Dickens uses this extremity to show that even the coldest hearts can be warmed. The ghosts are not just supernatural figures. They symbolize the internal struggle of self-reflection, regret, and the realization that we all have the power to shape our own futures. One of the most beautiful aspects of A Christmas Carol is its enduring relevance. The struggles of the poor, the divide between the wealthy and the working class, and the need for compassion remain issues in modern society. Dickens' depiction of the Cratchit family isn't just meant to evoke sympathy. It's a call to action, urging those with means to recognize their responsibility to uplift others. Beyond its social message, the novel also captures the true spirit of Christmas. It's not about extravagant gifts, grand feasts, or material wealth. It's about togetherness, gratitude, and giving from the heart. Scrooge's redemption is not only about becoming a better man, but about reconnecting with humanity itself. His newfound generosity isn't performative, it's genuine, and it brings him joy in return. In the end, Dickens leaves us with a simple but profound message. It's never too late to become a better person. Whether it's Christmas time or any other day of the year, kindness, love, and generosity will always have the power to transform lives, including our own. And of course, as Tiny Tim so perfectly says, God bless us, everyone. Stay tuned for more enlightening content. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe the World Icons.